Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Chroma Awards live stream. We are streaming constantly.
Yeah, the same joke. Yes.
Every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific time and Wednesday at noon. Today, we have a really fun conversation with our friend Reza from Massive Studios. And yeah, we're just gonna like jump right into that conversation. We do have some awesome announcements though. Or actually, Davis, do you want to take this away?
Oh, I think actually you can do it with the slides, but I
Okay,
can
yeah.
definitely shout. We can definitely shout out to some of the judges that we have. So it's quite exciting because we can see a lot of like familiar faces here and really, really great folks in the AI space. Like you can see we can see name is gonna be with us, and Dr. Ryan B. Reeb, and also Eliza, and you, Maddie. You're also judging experimental with our friend Junie as well. And look at marketing. We also have Verena from Luma and Jason from Secret Level, and PJ definitely. And oh
Thank
yeah, and
you,
we
Davis.
have several guests. Can we get to the last page again? Like we have some guests that were here with us as well. Yeah, like we see Henry from Google. He was also here with us at one of the show. Yeah, and we got more categories going on. And here
Yeah.
we definitely see Raza. Wait, yes, Raza at the horror and thriller judges, and Davide. He was also with us a few weeks ago. Yeah, so we have a lot of like amazing like artists in this space are going to judge for us. That's quite exciting. Oh yeah, I saw Eves and Gabe, and definitely Brogan and our Matty. Yeah,
Big Maddie.
yeah. So
uh
this week we are announcing all the judges. So you guys might definitely see some of the reposts on Instagram as well. Like announcement is pretty exciting. We still have a few judges coming in later. I'll definitely add them up. Add them up. Yeah.
yeah, so we'll have more announcements coming soon.
Hmm.
So let's jump into this interview with Reza. Reza is award-winning filmmaker and co-founder of Massive Studios. Do you want to give us a little intro to your bio and how you came into AI?
Sure. It's good to see you both, and thanks for having me. Well, as you said, I've uh, won awards at Cannes and Sundance and South by, and a lot of the major film festivals. Been really fortunate. I came into traditional filmmaking without, knowing anybody in the business or the industry, so it was a climb, and not an easy climb, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I actually so I've always grown up around tech. My I grew up in Palo Alto. I was born in Iran, but I grew up in Palo Alto, and my dad is actually, he's kind of a math and science genius. He has a couple of masters from Stanford, and he was one of the main inventors at HP Labs, Hewlett Packard Labs. So, he has a lot of patents, and I was always around it just growing up, and uh, uh, I've always liked tech, but I wanted to use it to make art, whether it's visual or any kind of storytelling on some level, but it's really certainly first started visual. And, so like and I'm still a big analog, head. Like, I love, I have a huge vinyl collection, and, I've shot on film and continue to shoot on film, when the opportunity arises. But really what happened was I had a movie that was greenlit, and then the SAG strikes happened, and then that movie ended up going away. And so, and AI, was in the news because of the way the things were being dealt with contractually. And I've always kind of had a healthy skepticism, about what I'm being told by others, and perhaps I think I can attribute it to having, escaped Iran and the totalitarian regime there. But so I was kind of, but I also have a really healthy curiosity, and so I just was like, I want to check this AI stuff out myself and see what it can really do or not do. And and my very first foray, at the time, there weren't many models, but it was Pika. I got involved in Pika, and I just, picked it up, and I had a lot of time on my hands because of the strikes. And so basically, after I put the kids to bed and my wife was asleep, I would just roll over with my phone and make stuff. And then kind of, they had the daily challenge, which they still do. And on that daily challenge, I'd turn it in, and I was, winning a lot of them. And it was kind of funny because at the time, some of the one of the moderators reached out to me, and said, "Hey, we're going to change the rules," because I think they were trying to build the community, and it wasn't like, they didn't want just certain people just winning them all the time. So, but I wasn't like, for me, the contest wasn't the thing. It was more about, how does this work, and how do I push the limits of it, um, and I've always had that kind of curiosity, almost like scientific curiosity of like testing something. And I think that comes really handy in the AI space. So what that did is they invited me. I was one of the first, if not the first, traditional filmmakers invited into their creative partnership program, which is like prevalent now, obviously, among all the generative models, et cetera. And that led me to a international community that I ended up meeting. Some of the, like the judges that you introduced there, was when I first met them. And that actually ended up leading me to being one of the creators on the RT2 remake, which, is, if there's people who don't know, it's the very first AI feature. It literally is the very first AI feature made in the history of the world. And so that was really exciting. And one thing led to another. I was very fortunate to be asked by OpenAI and Tribeca Film Festival to make a film, and it actually premiered at Tribeca 24, which is one of the very first AI films to premiere at a major film festival. So, but that's really kind of what started, and then there was a lot of press and et cetera that was coming around that, and I started meeting more and more people in the community, and then I mean, it really, massive studios, kind of, you can draw a direct line from that. It's like how we formed and why we formed really came out of that.
It's really cool to see how, like, you've had this really long career in the film industry, but all of this momentum within AI, that's really only happened since the last 2 years, right? Like
Yeah,
the
I think
strikes
so.
were 2 years ago. So it's really fascinating to see. And it's also interesting how you started up with competitions and these challenges. I feel like it's how a lot of people start, especially because it's new technology. And it's just like the competitions are a great way just to get started and have a small goal to hit, you know.
Yeah, I
So
mean, that's what
hopefully, like with this competition, we then see like a new generation of creators with AI.
exactly.
Yeah.
And also, like, you never know. I mean, that's what happened with me in the traditional films, right? I mean, is like, Sundance is, I learned later just how hard it is to get in there, and I've
Mm.
been very fortunate to have, like, 4 films there. But uh, but also I would say that, that is a wonderful way to get involved. But if you don't win or you don't get nominated, to if you're driving to do this, like, it just might be the taste of those particular people at that time. It doesn't mean that what you're making isn't valid. I remember when the first 48-hour runway competition like kind of came about, and there was so many great films you'd see, but none of them got picked, and it's just it doesn't necessarily mean anything on some level, but it also does. I mean, when you can get some sort of recognition on a bigger platform and people see it and they talk about it. But I just would say that to people because I've been way more rejected than I've won. We talk about the wins and stuff, but the rejections are so wide and varied. But I think it builds character as well, and kind of, I don't know, motivated me, I'll just say, to um, just get better, and do something, uh, uh, just to get back on the bike again in a way, right? Like, but it
Yeah.
so anyway,
Yeah.
I
Common
just kind of say
story
that
in the
as
industry.
encouragement to people.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah. Um, I just wanted to shout out. Oh, I feel like there's maybe that's you, Davis.
What?
Yeah, I'm
There's
hearing
like
some
a
feedback. There you go.
Is it on my end? Give me one
yeah, it
sec.
seems to be a alarm. But I just wanted to shout out like we have some friends in the audience, and I love this comment from RZ that it really is starting to feel like the real AI Olympics, that we really gathered the whole like AI studio community together with all of the judges that we are announcing so far.
Mm,
Um, yeah, so for our audience, do you want to just like quickly name drop a little bit of your filmography and then we'll also play your reel from Massive?
sure. Um, well, I mean, I think the movie that I'm most well known for is called A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. It was, talk about like really pursuing, your dreams and really believing in what you want to do. At the time, I was working at a very successful commercial production company, and I was there to really help develop the film slate. But developing movies, it takes time, and there's a lot of work involved. And even though the directors there really wanted to make movies, commercials ended up taking precedence just because they happen much faster, and the money, is good, and so. But I had this opportunity while I was there that came my way. So it was, to make what is essentially a black and white vampire western, all in Farsi. And when we pitched it, it's not something that people were like, "Oh yeah, this is going to be something that's going to hit," But I just really believed in it. Everybody involved in it just really believed in it artistically, and it just felt very special and unique, and was something that we wanted to do. And it wasn't, an easy road by any means, but the good news is, it premiered at Sundance. It got amazing reviews. Even some of the big players that are in distribution who admired the film and saw what it was, they were still scared at the time. And we ended up kind of forming a very unique situation in how to distribute the film that hadn't been done before. And then once it got out, it just slowly picked up, and it's been a tremendous success. It's like considered one of the greatest vampire films of all time, one of the greatest horror films of all time by, all this press and stuff. So, and it has like all these, people that I admire greatly, love it, from like Kate Blanchett to like Guillermo del Toro to Luca Guadagnino and etc. So that's probably the one that I'm most known for. But making movies is, they're all like your babies, so I don't like have a favorite. I love them all, and I know the stories behind them, and we always set out to make a great film. But sometimes, well, always reality intervenes and kind of changes certain things. But I also love the movie Prisoners of the Ghostland, with Nicolas Cage and Sophia Boutella. It's another very different kind of wild movie, a post-apocalyptic kind of Western,
Yeah.
set in some alternative reality of Japan. Um, and I'm trying to think. Yeah, there's there's a film that was kind of remarkable. I mean, not kind of, it was very a drama called Circumstance.
Yeah.
That also won the audience award at Sundance that year. That a lot of people who've seen it, who it really speaks to. I still get messages from saying thank you so much for making this movie. This helped me understand that I had a voice. And so yeah, there's I mean, it's wild when you're making me. I haven't done this in a while, like going through the list of movies, but I'm thinking about them. I'm going back into like production
Yeah.
and all the
Well,
memories of
it's
working on those films.
yeah, I mean, it's really such an honor for us to be able to have you judge the horror thriller category.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Feels like a perfect fit for you. So yeah, I mean, now that we know a bit about your background, let's move forward to the present and let's see what you've made with Massive. So let's play
Oh
this
yeah,
reel.
this is our reel. Yeah.
Anything else for you, sir?
I will just take this, thank you.
Nice. What a fun song. I
Yeah,
love
that track.
the
Yeah.
pop. Was that all generated by you or parts of the team as well?
No, that's everybody.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, we wanted to have everybody repped in there.
Nice. So who's part of the team?
So the first, the four co-founders are myself, Dustin Hollywood, Alex Petrescu, and Mike Ewing. And then the team has expanded, because we've been very fortunate to, have the companies doing well. So our first partner in our company is Scott Holmes, who's head of strategic development. We have, head of investor relations. We have an amazing producer and project manager, Michelle Vogel. We have one of the greatest product developers in the world, Ian Klassen, who, his projects include the Amazon Alexa you may have heard of, and the GoPro.
Nice.
Yeah, and then there's some other people involved with which we haven't, like, I guess we're saving it for an announcement, but we've been very under the radar, not under the radar necessarily maybe in the AI space, but we just haven't been doing the whole kind of press release thing, and we just kind of been building. We just wanted to keep building the company, and I think that's important to do the work.
Yeah. And it looks like there's someone from the team. Alex is in our chat as well.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You
Nice.
sound great.
Nice to see. Yeah, I mean, what I think is really cool about your work is that you're not just you're doing the you're kind of doing cross-disciplinary work like
Mhm.
film, immersive events. Um, can you want to talk a little bit about like what sort of ties all that together in
Yeah.
your creative vision for Massive?
Well, it's really all of ours, and what it is that we basically call them pods. These different pods, and you just said it very succinctly and well. Like it's the immersive. You've got the film and TV and the commercials, right? And what really ties the whole thing together is we did a very long kind of branding exercise, just like who are we, at Massive Studios, and what do we, if we were to really distill what all of us are burning to do and want to do, and it came down to our passion is storytelling, and that's our motto as well. And so in everything, it's like we want to be able to tell a story. And also, I just think it makes really good business sense. I mean, with AI, you don't have to get pigeonholed necessarily, because you can do
Mm,
things much faster, and you can kind of go into different visual mediums. And so commercials, were really the first to kind of adopt it, I think, in the space, and be open to it. And our very first commercial went viral for Sally's a Pizza, or
Mhm.
it's called Sally's a Beats if you really are in the know how to pronounce it, but it's spelled Sally's a Pizza. It's a long story about which you could research online, So, so we should say Sally's a Beats. And then that was really, I mean, that was super gratifying on so many levels. It's always nice, obviously, when your work is seen and etc. But it had, you know, because I'm trying to think how many months ago that was now, but maybe it was like 7, 8 months ago. So obviously, we know in AI terms that's like 10 years,
Yes.
yeah.
and so the tools, it would be so much easier to make that commercial today. But they really had these grand ideas. How do you make a parody of the famous Apple 1984, Vision commercial, and but specific to their brand. And so there were so many challenges, just from like the consistency of keeping their logo, on the characters, because obviously a logo is important to any brand, but specifically with them, they chased the same person that designed the Instagram logo. They chased him for a long time until he relented and said yes, and to do their logo. So it's like paramount. But as I said, with any brand, it is. But like, so I just remember all the kind of problem solving, and it was amazing to be able to deliver that, as a team, to them, and then have it be successful, especially because they're not like a huge brand, but their name really got out there. And it's my understanding that, as they're expanding across the country, that commercial has really helped them, uh, get more investment into their brand. And so, it was a nice way to see, like, okay, a commercial traditionally that would cost, millions of dollars to make, and with a company that doesn't have those resources, to be able to deliver on that, and then for them to have, all that success. And then, the I mean, movies and TV is maybe not as obvious, but I mean, it's obvious to us. We love film and television. So, in terms of all the different aspects of that, in terms of the workflow, like whether it's pre-production or leading into production, or post-production, VFX. So all those we help with, and unfortunately there's a lot of NDAs, et cetera, for these projects, but we're working with really some of our idols that we grew up with. And it's incredible that we are getting that opportunity. But it's also really gratifying, again, like with the commercials. These are, in some cases, it's stories that the traditional studios can't take risks on because they're original, and
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
they're going to cost too much money. And so, but with us, teaming up with us, they can see how we can kind of, lower that barrier, and we can actually go ahead and make them.
Yeah.
And then the immersive is a whole other thing, which we can talk about too, if you'd like. But I
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, digging into the studio aspect,
Hmm.
um, like when you say it makes these stories that were previously unpossible, like possible to produce, like in what aspect? Is it heavy VFX? Is it
Hmm.
just like just budget concerns, or is it just like they're not this? studio executives are just unable to envision this creative vision? Like, what about
Mm.
AI kind of unlocks it for them?
Well, I mean, it's really, it's hard to, it comes down to being risk averse. I think with the exception of Warner Brothers currently, who've had a nice slate of original movies, where there's been a lot of money spent on them, right?
Mhm.
One Battle After Another, Sinners. Um, and so uh, but it does really come down to cost. And so it's like, okay, this film traditionally would cost $150 million to make. But if we work with you, and again, what I will say, no, not again, but I will say that, I have tremendous, because I've done it. I've made movies, I'm an actor, and I have tremendous respect for the craft of filmmaking and for the craft of acting. And you know, I think there's also an attraction. Not only can we help them save money, but they trust us because they know it's like, oh, okay, Reza made this movie that I really like, and he knows how the traditional pipeline works. And then we are obviously, I feel like, experts at this stage in terms of the AI pipeline and how that works, and where do those two things meet, and where, what's I don't want to throw away, 100+ years of film history and workflow, because some of those things really work for a reason. They've been honed over the years. But then in this case, bringing AI, where does that work really well? And then where do these, two come together to make the best possible story? But if you were to really distill it, it really does come down to budget. It's like, look, we can't spend $150 million on this original story, but they can spend 50, and we help them, get there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, AI can't do everything, and I always I'm like, maybe in some cases, but I'm not interested. Like, I want to, I'm not interested in making things that are good for AI. I just want to make good things.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I can't wait for us to get past this. It's cool, but like, at some point in the near future, we're not going to be saying AI anymore. We're just going to be saying, like, you made this film.
Yeah.
I really like this film, but I'm excited for that time to come, which will probably come sooner rather than later.
I think
Yeah.
soon. I hope soon. Yeah. And I
think
also have a following up questions like, would you say it kind of like save costs during like a lot of the pre-production of the developing phase? Like, is AI helping those aspects a lot?
I think it can honestly, it can help with all phases. It just really depends on what the director and the producers are looking for.
Mm.
So and that's really amazing, and it's important to, I always say, when we're having a meeting, I say we can't do that yet, because as the tools change, and we've had instances where we're working on a project, and about 3 weeks into it, a new tool has come out, and all of a sudden we can do that. I mean, I just had that recently with something where there was a shot that was really hard to do, but now actually it's not that hard to do. And so yes,
What was the
but it is,
tool that
what's that?
what was the tool that like unlocked that shot?
The new Sora.
Mm.
Yeah. There was a certain kind of adherence that it needed for that shot, and yeah, so I was able to get it.
Oh,
That's really
nice.
cool. And
Speaking
also,
oh, go ahead.
oh, I'm just thinking like, because I remember what like back in the days, like filming, communication between different, like let's say departments, we have to use words to describe what I want. Like, even like I'm talking about a certain kind of color, red. Like each of us has like a different interpretation in our head.
Yes.
And what I'm experiencing is like with AI, sometimes I can just really quick generate an image, and make sure we are seeing the same thing. So I was gonna ask you, do you kind of have this similar experience when it comes to your workflow?
Mm. In terms of the speed or the specificity or both?
Specific, both, actually, both.
Yeah. Well, the speed certainly, that is undoubtedly a big part of it. I think the specificity is a really good subject because, so when I first started playing on AI, when I was talking about like, there wasn't a lot of, uh, uh, there just wasn't enough room to prompt, right?
Yeah.
Like there was much shorter prompt lengths, which is fine. Like if there's a certain kind of thing that someone wants to do, and that's no worries. But really, it was with the first when I first started playing on Sora 1, where I was really excited because it didn't have a length to the prompt. I could just go on and on and on and on. And really, I started writing them as the way that I would write a script, but not in a traditional way, because also you're taught, unless you're a writer director and you're going to be directing it, you're advised to write your script in a general way so that the director can direct it, right? But everything that needs to come across. I've broken that rule, and sometimes it's paid off for me. Like Prisoners of the Ghostland, I co-wrote that with my friend, and we definitely wrote in a lot of direction into it.
Yeah.
But so I was really thrilled when that freedom came from the lengthy prompts, to be able to get into the details. And I came up with this. I coined this phrase, and it was actually when I was talking to the developers at OpenAI for Sora 1. And, I was like, I think we should do something called ethical prompting. And they were like,
Yeah.
What is that?" And I was like, well, because what if, everything that you're prompting where you don't reference anything else, meaning like, a director or the name of a brand, etc., right? And this is, obviously for, I mean, you can have fun and put things on socials with doing those things and do, like, I don't know, stupid little parodies or whatever. But in terms of paid work, it's like you can have a paper trail of your prompts and where there's nothing referenced. And that's actually even different than when we make traditional films, because when we have conversations, right, we reference like, oh, I really love the light in that, Joseph von Sternberg film, but I want the light at this point to turn into more like a Robert Richardson, kind of halo over, so we do those kind of conversations, and then we'll make them our own. But in this case, I was like, well, what if, and that's what I practice when, especially with, the paid stuff, is like all no references to anything else. And then what I find that does to me, which I think is really helpful, is that it forces me to get really specific about that, like color red you're talking about, or whatever it is that I want to impart in that shot, so the camera angle, the light, etc., because basically you end up doing all departments, right? Like you're the costume design, you're the makeup department in that instance. But I think that's a great way to find out what it is specifically that you want to do. With this like new Sora 2, I did I made like the first official film with Sora 2, because I mean I got to test it before everybody else, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
put it out.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wanted a very specific look, again, without referencing films, but I was like curious, like if I could get this like 60s kind of look from certain spy films,
Yeah.
and if it could be in the prompt, and it could have, with the grain and the way that it looks, the way that we kind of see some of those films now, not if they've been, like remastered or whatever, like a
Yeah.
4K kind of remaster. And it was so cool to see, like, oh yeah, you can create that.
Yeah. Well, let's play it actually. I think
Oh
Okay.
yeah,
you've sent this to us, so let's watch.
Yeah, this is fun.
let's watch it.
The name's Bond, James Bond.
Where you been, James?
Following a trail of smoke and trouble, Miss Cushpenny,
And did it lead anywhere worth the paperwork?
worth every page. Some sights don't leave you no matter how fast you fly home.
He's cool, he lights up the room. James Bond. The name's Bong, James Bond. Shaken, not stirred, but he likes it smoked. Hey, hey! 00 weed on a mission.
Glad you could make it, Bong. We have a delicate situation. A prototype microchip was stolen from the Ministry of Defense last night. If the wrong people replicate it, our satellites go blind.
I'm blind to everything except snacks.
Heaven help us.
Microchip. Yeah. Makes me hungry for...
Bonk, you're supposed to be locating the microchip, not the bakery.
Snooping works up an appetite.
Well, then let's go to my place for cookies and some heart.
Milk.
Oh my gosh.
Great. I saw this when you posted the other day. I love it. I just have to say I love it. I love the humor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was
Thank
so
you.
unexpected from Reza.
You know, it's funny because my friend Sway is always like encouraging me to do more AI humor. Because when I did the RT2 remake, I was kind of one of the later artists to come into it because they'd already had a lot of artists working on it. And so I looked through it and I was like, man, everybody's done every style, everything. And I'm like, what's my way in here? And so I ended up making basically a Terminator scene, but as a silent film. And people were just cracking up. So I think Sway was one of the main guys behind that. And so he's always telling me I should do this. But what I was going to say, like in that example, I mean, I just love I still look at it and it's so great. Like that kind of diffusion, of that, also that old kind of glamour Hollywood lighting, but got really specific about the kind of the film stock and where the lights were and stuff. And I was impressed at how it followed all that.
So you're prompting based off of what you were looking for, because you had this vision in your head already, like as somebody who's a filmmaker and director. And yeah, I think that's really fascinating because I feel like a lot of people are kind of discovering what they are looking for as they prompt, but you're very much the opposite, it seems, in your approach.
Yeah, I mean, I understand like the quick hit, of things, and and like just to see like if something super simple would do something, and I get that, and I think it's kind of magical. But what's powerful is like when you go deeper under the hood, and you start to. That's why I'm like, I mean, I'm doing a lot of speaking engagements around this stuff, and people ask me, especially like a lot of filmmakers, like how they should get into it. And I'm always, or even people that are wanting to get into AI film but aren't filmmakers, and I'm just always like, learn the basics of visual storytelling, like really learn that, because it'll end up making your stuff unique, especially now with Sora 2, right? Like you can get a pretty great looking thing for 10-second shot or scene or trailer with like a really simple prompt. But as you go on the feed, everything kind of looks the same.
Yeah.
After a while, you're kind of like, it loses its value, like, you know what I mean? Because if anybody can do it, you're like, so what,
Yeah. So I mean, I'm really curious then, like, do you have any advice for these newer filmmakers who are sort of figuring out their style or figuring out what it is they want to make?
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to find your style. I think that's a journey for everybody. But and I'm also, because I have such a strong acting background, I'm not someone who's always wanted to have one style, because as an actor, you play different roles and you kind of inhabit different characters. So mine kind of comes from that, is just really what's the type of story I want to tell, and can I inhabit that style? But then, there are artists, who certainly have very unique styles, and you can always tell. I mean, I guess I would encourage real experimentation. Don't worry about, people pursue the algorithm. It's just kind of what's hot, and the algorithm, no one has it figured out. No one keeps going viral one after another. You know what I mean? It's just, it's kind of random. So I just wouldn't chase that. I would really chase what speaks to you, and like what was what were the films and music videos, or whatever it was visual that got you, or photographs that got you excited in the first place. And then what's your unique thing that you want to tell within this? As an Iranian American, I love all kinds of cinema, but I also didn't know until A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night that anybody would want to see Iranians in a certain kind of way. You know what I mean? That really opened it up, where on some level, we, in some circles and certain things, we became cool. Like it was like people were playing the soundtrack. It was on vinyl everywhere, but it spoke to my hybrid identity. It wasn't one or the other, but it really meshed those two things. But it didn't exist before, but we had to kind of take a risk and put ourselves out there. It's hard. I mean, I would also just say, this is gonna sound, I don't know what it's gonna sound like, but sometimes with all this noise going on, and I find a lot of people, including myself, in the AI space, are ADD or ADHD.
It's like the third time this has been brought up.
And so I'm kind of like, I think it's good to slow down and just like, turn inwards, and like, what is it? And there's no way to work now necessarily with AI, right? Like you can make an image in Midjourney or whatever tool you want to use, and the image could be so like striking to you, as an artist, and you're like, oh, I want to now see more of that world, and you can build on that, but play around, and there's no rules, you know what I mean? Like maybe there's a style that's no style, you know what I mean? It just jumps around. With AI, you can take all these risks and make stuff, not like, ruin a whole crew's day, by like experimenting. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Well
you
said.
can make 30 takes and it's fine.
Yeah.
Or even
Go through
100. Just
those.
keep rolling. Keep
Yeah.
rolling the dice.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And I think what also, like you touched on this a few times, which I love about your process, is that it really starts with curiosity of like seeing something that you love from a film and seeing if you could recreate that with AI. I feel like that's a really great practice of sort of just experimenting and figuring out like something unique that other people aren't doing in the
Yeah.
space.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love how you phrase that, like looking at something, because sometimes people ask me like, what was the prompt, and I'm like, sometimes it's better to not know, because if you then go look, oh, I really like that, let me go see how I can recreate that, you might discover something different and new, and because there's never like just one way to do it, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's some people who die on the hill of like JSON prompting, and then there's others who are like, no, man, like this is, and I'm like, whatever gets you there, and I think it's cool to not know as much and experiment, because you will end up inevitably finding something that others didn't. And even in traditional cinema, right? Like a lot of the most amazing movements, like let's take like the French New Wave, for example, right? There were limitations that they had as directors, but they were also reacting against, a films and way of being that they were tired of. And that combination, though they loved cinema, but that combination of, kind of rebelling against it and the limitations that they had with in terms of camera and and budget and locations, and and all these amazing films were made. I actually think limitations are great.
Same. I want to second that as well, because it kind of give you, as a creator, you have to come up with some creative way to get things done. And
Mhm.
usually, I tend to love those results. They're usually better when it has no limitations in some way. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Like, imagine if you give, like, Michael Bay, like, if you just said, listen, dude, he's got $50,000, 4 actors in a room. Like, I would love to see what he does. You know what I mean? I bet he would make something super dope. Or
Yeah.
like, or reverse, or like, give someone like Woody Allen, like, say, okay, you need to go and make the new Transformers movie. And let's see.
I want to watch that. I want to watch
Give
that.
him permission to do anything, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think these are also like great inspiration for the artists that just coming in, because see, like Woody Allen and then Transformer, what's he gonna look like? What's he gonna look like? You just prompt it and start working with it.
Yeah.
I actually I made I didn't know we were going to be talking about this, but I actually made like a little clip of what I thought Woody Allen's Transformers would be like. That's maybe I'll post it at some point.
That's pretty.
It's
Post
pretty
it.
funny.
I'll share it for sure.
Yeah.
Real quick, I just want to interject 'cause there was a question if
Mhm.
people are allowed to use Sora 2 in the Chroma Awards. Yes, short answer. You can use any tool whatsoever in the Chroma Awards, not just our sponsor tools. Yeah, and I mean, do you have any advice for using Sora 2, Vesa, since you've been in it for a while now?
The Sora 2?
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so powerful. I think, yeah, I think I would, I think now some of it's getting there. I mean, I posted some things that, like, I guess went kind of semi-viral or something. One thing I did was, I don't know if you're a writer, but I am. So I just took a page from my script, and you have to obviously be aware of the length of the clip. And you can do 15 seconds at the most, but and I took a page from my script, and I just fed it in as the first frame, and asked it to basically adhere to that as the prompt. I didn't even say the prompt, but, like, I just said, turn this into the live action version. And I was astounded by the result. It was very, very close to what I had written. So it really followed the direction. So it took that page of script as a really detailed prompt, which is super cool, because, like, if you run into, because then you can use, basically, you don't have to use all that information as the prompt now. So then you can, if you want to get into the specifics of all the aesthetics, you can do that, and you've got the script together. So that was pretty cool. I did that also with storyboards. I kind of first had the idea because I was speaking at Busan at the International Film Festival there, but I had a layover in Taipei, and the airport is so awesome. I know I think I told you, Maddie, about it, but it's just like, you've been there, Davis, the Taipei airport?
Kind of a hometown.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, all those, I love all those lounges that are, like, really specific themed, but, these wonderful places to rest. And of course they have a cinema one, and I had to be in that one, and it's all like movie theater chairs, in there, but they had a little bit of history of some Taiwanese cinema, and there was a storyboard there. And I took a picture of that storyboard, and I was like, I wonder if Sora would read this, and then it did. And then later I did one with the one that I ended up posting was later with an Alfred Hitchcock storyboard from The Birds, and people really love this, and the prompt adherence, I mean, let's call it, the storyboard adherence is phenomenal. So that's a really cool way. I even, like, I mean, I remember in Busan, I took a picture of this dessert place that I really liked, and in this mall, and I was just like, was curious. I'm like, I wonder if I could just, based on this picture, just make a commercial for this place. And sure enough, it's doable. There's just so much to play with.
Yeah.
My advice would be just, play with it, get into details. You can certainly break it down into time, like you can get really specific with it. It really follows your prompt. So like within the 10 seconds, if you break it down into 2-3 seconds and you're really specific about where things happen, it'll do it, so it's awesome.
That's really good to know.
I love how creative you are with the prompting.
Oh,
Like
thanks.
not just being so one-to-one about it. Michelle is
Right.
asking if you have made any of your prompts public. Is it part of the posts?
It's funny. I'm not like I said, I'm not a big prompt sharer. But if you have specific questions, you can ask. Here's the thing. I was actually making, what Sora does now, right? Then we talk about like experimentation. That Sora that you basically makes, you can make a one shot, but it can make a little scene that's edited, right? Or a little commercial. Honestly, I was doing that with Sora 1, which led Suki, who's like the head of the artist program. She called me the Sora Whisperer. And so I had figured out and I don't know how I came upon this, but I was just experimenting. But I figured out what numbers correspond. It's not like traditional numbers. It was just like some form of numbers that correspond to when the cuts would happen. So without sound, obviously, because it didn't have sound at that time. But I posted at that time. I made full short commercials that were longer because you could get 20 seconds with Sora 1. So so it's kind of cool to see this kind of evolve into this. But yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. But again, I'm just like, go do crazy stuff, like just I don't know, write in, just go and like type in gibberish, see what it does, you know what I mean? And then see if there's like a pattern. I kind of look for patterns, you know what I mean? Like I'll do like 3 or 4 things similarly, and then once I see a pattern there, and then I'll see like, oh, can I expand upon this?
Yeah, you're like describing witchcraft right now. It feels like you're like crafting a spell with the magic numbers. Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah, I should probably. You know what I should do is I'm gonna try those numbers in Sora 2, see if it corresponds.
And please share the result. Please share the
Okay.
result. Definitely wanted to see.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Michelle's curious about like breaking down that clip into multiple shots. So, are you saying
which clip?
like generating a single clip that has multiple shots within
Mhm.
Sora? So
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what you could do is using the word. I mean, this is kind of a simple way to do it, and there's again not one way, but using the word cut in between, like just being very. I've seen people do this. You could try this too if you're using ChatGPT, where like, just put in your idea, whatever it is, but it's got to fit in within a 10-15 second deal, and then ask ChatGPT to explain this to a 3-year-old, and then once you get that, then I would just separate it by cuts, and then maybe put in the time frame. So from 0 to 3 seconds, this cut, this, and then in that simple explanation. But then just know that like the more specific you get with the details of everything, like the clothes they wear, and all the colors, the more then you'll have more consistency over time over what the look that you want, and then you can get the specific actual generation that you want. Actually, that makes me think one thing that I would think would be so cool to start, and maybe we should all start this. Maybe this should be like part of the Chroma award, like it's something that would be kind of cool. Would be, how you can cameo with on Sora, and you can cameo with people.
Yes.
Like, why aren't people getting into a team and opening up their cameos to each other, and that's your cast. You know what I mean? Like you could create a consistent film with characters if you got basically like 4 people or whatever
Yeah.
that are cameo, and you're cool. They're always going to look the same, and then if you prompt them, you can make a full, like a cool short film that way. Wouldn't that be cool?
Or a sitcom. Oh,
Yeah.
or a sitcom.
We'll have like a Chroma Awards microdrama series
There you go.
starring the whole judging roster.
That's
Just make
that's
Davis'
such a great
job
idea.
harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. More watching times.
So this has been a great conversation. I think just to wrap this up, it'd be great to hear from you as a judge for the horror thriller category of the Chroma Awards. What are you looking for in terms of an award-winning film?
Well, I mean, one thing that I used to teach film at the college level for a brief amount of time, and it was interesting because we would talk about films, and then there was like films that people liked and didn't like. But one thing I was always trying to impart to everybody was, what was the filmmaker trying to do, and were they successful at doing it? Not whether you liked it or not, you know what I mean? And because something might not be your taste, but so that's one thing. Like I'm always kind of looking for that. But also, I love it when people go for it. I love it when people it's like when you really make something, it should almost feel like when you're sharing it, and that you are basically not like you literally did this, but that you it's like you filmed yourself, and again, not literally, but you filmed yourself dancing naked in your house, right? And
Not literally.
now, and you're just doing it completely free and everything else, but now you're sharing it with people. Like, it should feel like that, like, oh my God, like, I can't believe I'm going to put this out there. And so, that kind of risk taking, again, it's not about nudity or whatever. I'm just saying like something that you would do. We used to do this. One of the most brilliant acting teachers of all time, her name is Salome Jens. We used to do these things called private moments, where it was basically something that you would do by yourself, and that if someone walks into the room, you would stop doing, right? And then the exercise was to bring that into class and do it in the same way. And inevitably, you could see when someone wasn't, where the truth wasn't there anymore, where they were aware of the audience and they were afraid, So my thing is just like, put yourself out there, really take a risk, with and obviously I'm looking for craft as well in terms of following the story and the storytelling. But I love it when people are bold. So I'm just like, go for it.
I love that. I love what you're saying. Yeah. 100% agree.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Reza.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You guys are awesome.
Yeah. Follow Reza on social media for more James Bond content.
Or Woody Allen Transformers, maybe.
Woody Allen Transformers. Yeah, and some Hollywood stuff here and there. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll share those in due time.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. This is going to be awesome. I can't wait to see the movies that people turn in.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're streaming again next Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So hope to see you all there.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Great to see everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Reza.
Bye.
Thanks, Davis. Bye.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.